I like this phrase that I've used in the past. Science merely narrows the chasm over which faith must bridge. So the idea is that more we learn about the natural world through scientific method, then the more we understand God's plan.
Mm.
It doesn't mean we'll ever understand it fully,
Mhm.
but we simply narrow the chasm. But we'll never understand it fully, but we'll understand it better over time, perhaps.
Mhm.
But it's not a linear progression, meaning we don't always go up and to the right. We have setbacks, we have errors, because that's the nature of man, and we're fallible. And smart scientists recognize that there's not really such a thing as failure. It's just meaning learning how it didn't work,
Mhm.
right? That's to kind of paraphrase a great scientist in the past. So it seems to me in the past, what's happened is we've had this hierarchy, which was faith, science, and then government.
Mm.
So in other words, you were led by faith, and that we see that all over the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the rights that were God granted to man and invested in man, and then man gave the rights to government. So we were intentionally governed. We subscribed to government. We endowed government, but it wasn't the other way around. Am I mistaken in asserting that paradigm has shifted, where it's now, and this is the concept of secular faith you write about in chapter 4. But it seems to me that we're now at government is first, science is second, and faith is third or worse.
Mhm.
Is that fair to say? Have I thought about that correctly?
I think you absolutely have. Yeah. So back in the early part of the 20th century, there was a group called logical positivism. A fellow named Auguste Comte, COMTE, was one of the foremost thinkers in this movement, who in terms very similar to what you're describing right now, said that humanity has moved through three phases. Started with the religious phase, this kind of superstitious, mythological sort of phase. Then from there, we moved to the aesthetic phase, which is where we're measuring the world through what we can feel, through our own experiences, through our own emotions. And he wants us to move to a third phase, a positivistic phase, where we will see the world through scientific, mathematical eyes and terms and prisms and so forth. And out of that comes the idea that truth, to be a meaningful statement anyway, must be capable of verification, either logically or practically. Well, that verification principle can't be verified by its own terms. It fails its own test, and logical positivism eventually goes away. But what's left over from it is what you're describing right now. You hear it in Richard Dawkins, who says we've gotten rid of every religion but one. We just have one more to go, who says religion is a virus in the software of humanity that must be expunged. You get it in Christopher Hitchens' best-selling book, God is Not Great, subtitled How Religion Poisons Everything. You and I know that religion has no ontological value, meaning it's a category. It's like leaves. What color are leaves? Well, there's oak leaves and there are pecan leaves. It's different leaves, right? Different religions. So I was talking to Christopher Hitchens about that prior to a panel discussion we were on some years ago. And I said, it's interesting, your subtitle, How Religion Poisons Everything. If you'd said religions, you'd be talking about Buddhism or Hinduism or Islam or whatever. But by saying religion, you're claiming that every religion of every kind, of every manifestation across all of history poisons everything. He said, that's exactly what I'm claiming. That's exactly the idea. So out of positivism and the scientific movement in our country, we've gotten to exactly the place now where faith is in third place. Faith is superstitious. Faith is mythological. The percentage of Americans who say the Bible is myth has doubled in the last 20 years. There's this conventional wisdom. It's completely wrong, but it's nonetheless this conventional wisdom that most of our wars are caused by religion, even though far more people were killed by atheistic, communistic means in the 20th century than religious means. Nonetheless, that's a conventional wisdom. So we want to get past this religious idea to a scientism where the scientists with their white robes are really the priests of the day, where they can solve all of our problems. And then ultimately what we want is a governmental structure that will harvest the results of scientific means and scientific advances, and then disperse them for all of us in ways that are hoped to be equitable. Was a day when the government depended on the consent of the people. Now it's exactly the reverse. And now there's this sense that we now need this governmental structure as the means of saving us from ourselves and bringing to us the benefits of the scientific revolution. And faith, of course, is a leftover, outdated impediment to everything I just said. I don't think that's an overstatement to say that really is the structure in which a lot of our so-called civil or uncivil discourse is happening today.